Hi, Dad. I'm gonna come home for a few days. I love you.
Perfect.
Hi.
We're waiting here forever.
You're always early.
Oh, you starting already? Come on, let's go home. Seeing someone?
Yeah. I wish you had someone.
You're my girl.
From Boston University Center for Digital Imaging Arts, this is the Post Movie Podcast. I'm Steve Head, and my guest today is Ed Symkus. He's a film critic for Gatehouse Media and the New England Cable News. And Ed's filling in for John. John couldn't make it today. John has other much more important journalist things to do.
I will fill those big shoes.
Thank you. And John reminded me to say that if you can't hold up the quality of the show, then then the axe is coming down.
And John,
serious
careful.
Trouble will
John
ensue.
Better be careful.
And today we're going to discuss the new Mel Gibson movie Edge of Darkness and the currently playing in theaters movie Tooth Fairy. And I'm going to talk about Mystery Team, which is going to be playing over at the Brattle all of next week. And it's if you don't get to that part of the podcast, which might be 45 minutes from now, I just want to say it's a terrific film, essentially. So you definitely want to check that out next week. Ed, were you going to?
I was quite surprised that we were talking before we started here that we were both kind of impressed with Edge of Darkness.
Yes.
I went in with a negative attitude.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why. Well, I'm not a big Mel Gibson fan, I guess. I was very happy with this film.
So your expectation for Edge of Darkness was it connected to anything Mel had done prior to this?
Well, what about the fact that Mel hadn't done anything in quite a while?
Oh, true.
It's been 2002 was the last time we saw Mel in a starring role in a film. Was when he made Signs. He did a couple of cameos since then. He was in The Singing Detective.
Right.
Except he was like unrecognizable. He had his head shaved.
I actually never saw. I wanted to see that. I have not seen it.
Not quite as good as and by the way, he executive produced that film too, which is why he had a cameo in it. And it was a good one. He played this bizarro doctor, and he ended up in the movie Paparazzi, which I believe he also produced, and just a little cameo. But I was thinking this guy was going to have some rust, and to be honest with you, how many Mel Gibson movies can you see? This guy has been acting in movies since the 70s.
Yeah.
I think was when...
he said 30 years.
Yes.
30 years
Mad Max, obviously the first time I saw him, and he's been up and down and up and down, and then, of course, he had his fiasco with the cops a few years ago, went on his drunken binge and everything, and then he was not seen anywhere.
I wonder if that came up in the press junket. You did the junket a week or two ago. Did anybody bring up his...
That didn't come up specifically, but it's funny, he alluded to it. And I have part of what he said about that. He was talking about, I actually wrote this part down. He was talking about life's experiences. Somebody had brought it up. I don't even remember what the question was. And he wasn't going to get into that part specifically. And then we'll get back to this new movie too. But he said, life's experiences, quote, whether they be pleasant or unpleasant, torturous or excruciatingly wonderful and blissful, they season you somehow and you learn from them. All I'm trying to do now is put some information on a chip that I can leave to my progeny, and maybe they can do a better job than I can on this crazy spinning piece of dirt.
He's dramatic.
Yeah, he got very dramatic. He was very serious about it too. He learned some lessons somewhere, but he wasn't going to talk about that thing. But that wasn't what drove him out of the business. He stopped making movies in 2002. That whole thing with the cops happened in 2006. Yeah. He was tired of making movies. That's what he said at this press junket. He said, I had to get out of this, and he started doing some directing. He started doing some producing. Actually, he had already directed Braveheart and everything, but in the past few years, he did Passion of the Christ. After that, he wrote, directed, and produced it. He did Apocalypto.
So he really didn't he took a vacation, but not from acting.
He stopped acting, and then it was just time to come back. But that all said, I was not the biggest Mel Gibson fan in the world. The last thing I saw that I really, really liked him in was Payback.
Really?
Which was a tough and nasty little movie.
I will admit to you, I have not seen that film, and I have wanted to.
Yeah, it's gritty and
it's just
tough.
It's just one of those things that never, reaches you.
There's this thing called Netflix.
Yeah.
Okay,
But I get
finally.
enough movies. I have enough movies. It's already. That's my explanation for Netflix is I have so many movies to watch anyways that it's like, why pay for Netflix? I've got so much stuff already.
Go to the library
Yeah.
and take a payback. Honestly, I think it was the last great thing that Gibson did. He played a serious, straight, mean, and nasty character. It was a revenge film, and it was a remake of a Lee Marvin movie. Oh my Lord, I'm forgetting the name. I think it was called Point Blank. I think it was called Point Blank from back in the 60s or 70s, and a very good one. That was the last time I liked him. I saw a few movies he did since then. I kind of liked We Were Soldiers. I didn't like Signs at all. I don't know what he was doing in the comedy What Women Want.
Right.
I kind of lost interest.
They're actually. I think they're doing a new version of that.
Of
What
course
Men
they
Want.
are. Why
Yeah.
not?
You know, you made a good point. It was as if you thought that Mel had rust on him, and the other thing is that when he's angry, he is good. He is good. He is good at being bad, and it is very impressionable.
And he's kind of
when he gets
angry
into
in this
these
movie,
no
isn't
bullshit moments,
Yeah.
where he's like, just, I'm sick of what you're saying. Now I'm going to tell you how it is, and those moments in the movie make it
in the new film.
Yes,
in
in
Edge
Edge of Darkness, make it, it has a gravitational pull, and it takes it to a next level.
I'm very glad to see you, Detective, as both a veteran and as a police officer of your many years of service, but I have to tell you that your daughter, and we have to say this despite a terrible accident, was in violation of almost everything of which she could be in violation.
What did she allege?
That's classified. You know, Detective, a very important part of the Massachusetts economy is research and development.
Senator, I think you're in a position, Senator, regarding Northmore, where you had better decide whether you're hanging on the cross or banging in the nails. Yeah. These deaths are the result of a conspiracy by one of your major campaign contributors.
Why do you include your daughter? Her death was an accident.
No, she was poisoned with thallium by Mr. Bennett. Oh, I think I'm scaring you, Senator. There's probably not too much upside to scaring a senator, except to provide some perspective. So I'm going to go now, but I'm going to leave you these pictures, and I want you to call everybody involved, everybody concerned, and tell them I know everything I need to know. You investigate this at a national level. You do that, maybe you'll come out of this all right. I don't know. I don't think you knew that the people you were in business with killed my daughter. But now that you do know, what are you going to do about it?
We should talk a little bit about why he's in that case. I think we can give away a tiny bit of the plot in this. For instance, the first 5 minutes of the film. And for all of our listeners out there, it's really cool that Boston is a character in the film.
Yes,
Very
and entertaining
much so.
watching it with the Boston audience.
Yeah, watching with the Boston audience, you get a travelogue of the city, but he plays a Boston detective, Thomas Craven. And the movie begins with his daughter, his adult daughter, returning home. I'm totally blanking on the name of this actress, who I had never heard of. Do you have that?
Bojana?
Oh, Bojana
Novakovic?
Navakovic or something like that. I don't know who she was, but she was beautiful. Adult daughter
She
coming
was in
home.
Sam Raimi's, and I dig this movie, Drag Me to Hell.
Oh, really?
But only in a brief part where she played the older, the freaky, scary woman's younger daughter who answers the door when they go into the
I got to
house.
go back and see that one again.
It was her.
Because I'm a fan now of this one. Well, she comes home after who knows how long being away from Dad. Maybe they were getting along, maybe they weren't, but they're happy to see each other. But she's just, it comes back to his home in Roslindale. They keep mentioning the word Roslindale in the movie. Kind of fun. And but there's something wrong. There's something off about her. She looks like she's not feeling well. We don't know what it is. And literally, within the first 5 minutes, all of a sudden this woman is like vomiting blood and going, Daddy, there's something I have to tell you. But before she can tell him that, something goes on outside. They run to the front door, and she's blown away by a shotgun.
Really just
blown away. Violence out of nowhere. So here's some guy, a bullet comes out of nowhere and kills her. Of course, it was meant for her dad, the cop, and she takes it by accident.
Well, that's what they thought.
That's what they thought, and that's what this film about. Who was that big shotgun blast for? And that's why Mel is trying to figure out what is going on. He plays this cop who says, I have no enemies. And I don't think I've ever seen a cop film where the cop doesn't have any enemies, but it's the mystery of why that killing occurred, whether it was for him or for her. And that's why he is so angry and so intense and very cool in the part.
And he has enough fuel to, like, considering what just happened, he has enough fuel in his trust of his daughter
Yeah.
and her decisions that she makes, to know that something is so incredibly wrong that he's willing to risk everything, because they had a very close relationship. I don't recall, his wife died. I don't know
Yes,
how
he
they
was a
explain
widower.
that.
They alluded to it, yes.
But his trust of his daughter and all of the decisions that she makes in her life really added to his fuel. And I guess this is also established early on that he's traumatized, but it doesn't result in him taking a leave of absence from the Boston police
From the
force.
police, even though he's told by his superiors that because he was related to the victim, he can't be in the case. He still does his own case.
Yeah, they wrapped that up pretty good with his
at the very, very
explanation
beginning.
of it. The other thing is that he's actually having some sort of a mental issue going on here. These, of course, real to us as the audience, flashbacks with his daughter.
Yeah.
But he's also talking to her in real time.
Yes.
Which makes it look like some sort of a ghost thing is going on here.
Yeah, we keep seeing him speaking with his daughter, but we only see her as he sees him, as a little girl, which is kind of a really nice touch in the middle of all this nastiness. There's this little, 7 or 8 year old girl looking up at him and calling him daddy, and they're shaving together in a little fantasy sequence. So his mind is a terrific
scene.
Really, really good stuff. There's some good, solid acting by Gibson in this film, which is, I guess, is one of those reasons where I'm so happy with it.
The rust you were talking about, as the movie went on, you're thinking, okay, this is Mel Gibson, but he really brings this character. He physically inhabits this character. There I go again, my inhabit.
He doesn't inhibit the character at all.
Living in Boston, I think we have a high sensory detection for any Boston accent that might be off.
Oh yeah,
he did it. All right.
He pulled
may have
off
been
the
over
accent.
over the top it a couple of times, but
and he actually dropped out of it a couple of times.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I thought he kind of nailed it.
Yeah, he did.
Good Boston accent.
He did. He really did a terrific job here. And as the movie progresses, and you see him just become more streamlined towards just ignoring everybody else's,
This guy's on a mission.
Yeah, and the movie gets more, lasering in on what the problem is here, and becoming less concerned about all the peripheral stuff that is just
what's
garbage.
happening for him is he's peeling back layers of this mystery. Right. Who really was his daughter?
Creeping up on a bereaved man in a murder scene is not very bright.
Mr. Craven, we have things to talk about.
Like your name and what you're doing here?
Like who shot your daughter.
You know who shot my daughter?
Your daughter was flagged as a possible terrorist threat to the United States of America. I said flagged, I didn't say she was.
It's funny the Boston Police Department didn't come up with that one.
Funny if they had.
You said my daughter was a terrorist.
I didn't. But someone did.
Who are you, Mr. Jedberg?
He never really knew her that well. They liked each other and everything, but she had some job, which we won't reveal here, and he's trying to find out what that job was and why maybe did that lead to maybe a killer coming for her. There was one thing we forgot to mention. When the killer did shoot that shotgun at the beginning, he yelled out one thing. He yelled out Craven, which was both of their last names.
Oh, right.
Which is kind of interesting. That's why we're not really sure. But there's a point in the film, too. It was about halfway. I don't remember who the character was, but Gibson's character, Craven, is talking to some lawyer. And
oh, right, the guy with the Cole Porter-like eyeglasses.
I don't know what kind of eyeglasses Cole Porter wore. But he was talking to a lawyer, a character. Okay. And something snapped in the character and in Gibson's performance. And the movie gets a little more vicious after that point.
You represent Northmore in local matters. My daughter came to talk to you, but you're Northmore's attorney.
This is a highly regular conversation.
You organized Western Mass for Senator Pine, who's put your name before 2 different governors for district court judge. If you don't talk to me, I'm going to the Globe and the Herald. I'm going to tell them my daughter came to talk to you about Northmore, that you were Northmore's attorney, yet failed to disclose it to her. And then you'd be right in the middle of a big-ass story saying how my daughter was the target, not me. This is not about police, okay? This is about me knowing what I have to know and the fact that you got to tell me. No, I want to see the senator.
See the senator? What do you think you are?
I'm the guy with nothing to lose.
He snaps completely as the character because he realizes there's something really wrong, and you can see it happen on screen. And from that point on, we were talking about the fast violence at the very beginning. It's kind of something that is like lurking around every corner at that point. This is and I also got another quote from the director who we caught.
Martin Campbell, who we caught at the junket. Interesting thing about Martin Campbell, he's made some interesting movies. He did Casino Royale a few years ago. He did GoldenEye, so he introduced two new actors to the Bond series. But here's what a lot of people haven't realized. This film, Edge of Darkness, was 20 years ago a miniseries in England. It was, I think, a 6-part miniseries, the same story, but it was set in England. And this version is also produced by the BBC.
Yes, but that original version was directed by Martin Campbell.
Yes.
And he has come back and revisited his own stuff. A 6-part thing cut down to 2 hours, a streamlined into it. Somebody asked him at the junket about this action and violence and intensity in this film. And he said, and again, quote, "Accumulatively, there's not much violence. There's not a great deal of action in it, but we designed the action rather like a car crash. Most violent acts come out of nowhere. They happen in the blink of the eye, and you never know quite exactly what happened." And that was the principle of what we were trying to do in this movie.
There are a couple moments in this film that made me, I did jump in my chair, and I did shout out, "What the?" Oh, no, I think it was more a couple of circumstances, and it happens so fast,
blindingly fast, and it's not gratuitous.
You really do have a little.
You have a big reaction. There's no slow-mo in this film, thank goodness, in the action sequences or in the violent sequences. No, the violence is vicious, and then it's over right away, and then you go on to the next thing, and then there's more of it coming around the corner, so you never know where it's going to hit you. And I thought that was one of the things that really propelled this movie.
I think maybe this could also be described as, for those of us who have seen The Departed and the scene in the elevator, how quickly that transpires, boom, boom, boom. That's what happens here.
That's what this movie is.
And then it's like, you got that moment, and then it's the picking up the pieces after it, trying to, everybody's a little mentally stunned.
And then we get right back on track of Gibson's character trying to figure out what the heck is going on here. And he starts meeting all these bizarro characters. I mean, we're talking
Danny Houston.
Danny Houston. You know, anytime you see Danny Houston in a movie these days, you kind of think, that may be a creepy character. I don't know if it's the look he has, but you know right away.
He has something about him that says respectable and smarmy.
It's smarmy. There's creepiness oozing out of him. He plays his daughter's former boss. There's just something wrong about him. There's a senator in this movie who somehow is involved in this whole thing. And talk about smarmy. That was I think I wrote in my review that smarmy might have been his middle name.
Oh, really?
You know?
Danny Houston. I don't recall his character's name, but in saying what the company he's, I'm not going to say what type of company he's running. But the way that the company is designed, and if one pays close attention to the beginning of the film, you can see this sort of fortress on the hill, he is presented as the master of his domain.
Absolutely. King of his world.
Filmically.
Yes.
In the design of his office. With just this,
a lot of glass looking out, and it was shot out in western Massachusetts, and it's just, I think that weren't the trees turning at that point, so there's some color all over the place.
He controls it all, and it provides these particular shots create a sense that he's basically, controlling. He is the overall master of what's going on here.
He is, until some certain Boston police detective comes into his life, and that's one of the things he has to, almost in a James Bond way. Hey, here's Martin Campbell directing James Bond again. He has to come into this guy's big fortress and see what he can do about righting things that he thinks are wrong. So it's a really kind of cool meeting of the brains. They're both smart guys.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's William Monahan wrote it, and so there are elements of the dialogue and whatnot.
William Monahan has excellent dialogue.
Absolutely.
Yes. And I don't know how much of this was actually lifted. Probably very little was lifted from the original one, because they've absolutely brought it up to date. It's very, very contemporary feeling. Although, and we're not going to give away what was, as you said, what was going on in that company, but some of the same subject matter was in the original. And
as much as the action was really darn good, my favorite parts are these one-on-one conversations that Thomas Craven has with
Ray Winstone?
Ray Winstone,
Yes.
Danny Houston's character, the fellow who plays the senator.
Yeah,
These no crap conversations, just getting right to the point.
Yes.
Enough of the pleasantries. This is the deal. I'm going to tell you how I like it. That's what's cool, are these well-written scenes.
Yeah, and the stuff with Houston's character and the senator's character are kind of like normal conversations, very well written. One of the interesting characters you just mentioned was Ray Winstone, who plays kind of I guess you'd call him a cleaner. He's a guy who fixes up situations that have gone out of control. We don't really know who he is.
That sense of mystery about him.
Yeah, we don't know if he's working
But
for the
whatever
government
he's doing, it works, because he's apparently got a life that can be supported by
this. And the conversations he has with that Winstone, and if you don't know Ray Winstone, check out the movie Sexy Beast someday. Go rent that movie. Wow, if you want to see an over-the-top, wonderful performance in a really crazy film. But the conversations that Gibson has with Winstone, most of them are hardly above a whisper. They're really close to, in space to each other, and they're just a little bit menacing, a little bit of this is my territory, this is my territory.
Oh yeah, wonderful scene where he appears in his backyard.
Yes,
and
he
they
appears
invite
out
him
of
into the
nowhere.
house.
And they're just quietly talking, and they don't threaten each other, but you know that there's threat in it. It's really, really well-written and well-acted stuff between those two guys.
I had a source says the Nightflower people were intentionally exposed to radiation while in the tunnels. But that source is dead now.
He wasn't a bad guy.
No.
Now, you know better than anyone. Cases like these are never solved. They're simply too complicated, too much hard work. There's a lot going on out there in this world. You just never can connect A to B.
How do you know that?
Because I'm usually the guy that stops you connecting A to B. It's part of what I do.
If I was an employee at Northmore, and I wanted to blow the whistle on something, what would I be blowing the whistle on?
Well, let's take a walk and we can talk about it.
I'm not walking in the dark with you.
You're a wise man.
You on my side?
Well, it's hard to tell.
What's that like? Not being anyone in particular.
I don't know what it means to have lost a child. But I know what it means never to have had one.
Yeah. Got nobody left to bury you.
You know, in some of the things that Mel's character Thomas does in this movie, it seems absurd at the moment, but then when you think about the motivations of his motivations, which I think are substantiated, supported. Some of the beatings he gives to people in this movie seem a bit, extreme, but he's beating on people that actually were very interested in the well-being of his daughter.
Yes.
So he's nasty, but he'll help you.
He's also a grieving father. You got to remember that part too, which may lead to why some of the beatings are even so intense. He goes after someone who he thinks might have caused harm to his daughter, but as you just said, didn't. There's a really cool fight with one guy who's maybe about half of his age.
Yeah.
I don't remember even what the character's name was. In a house, he goes up to call on this guy because he wants to talk with him, and the guy sees him coming but doesn't really know who he is. It turns out the guy is fearing for his own life, and somebody may be coming for him.
Bit of a Hitchcock move there, where the knife is revealed to the audience.
Yes.
But Mel doesn't know it's there.
There's a big knife, and there's a gun, and there's a fist fight that comes out of it, done in very, very close space. And so, and the camera isn't really tight on it, kind of like what they were doing in the Bourne movies, but the action isn't that wild, so you don't get dizzy watching it. But yeah, you feel that viciousness that Mel has had building up in him, even though he may be doing it against the wrong guy, but he does it against the right guys too. Yeah, if you like fight scenes, this movie's got them.
Do you think this movie's going to benefit from a title that people seem to be having trouble with?
Edge of Darkness?
Yeah.
Sounds like a soap opera, doesn't it?
It does. And I'm not exactly sure how this ties into what's going on. I mean, is it part of the dialogue? I couldn't remember.
I have no idea what the title means.
I mean, are they just...
I think we have to go back to the BBC and see that original show and see what it meant in that. No,
yeah, I thought it could have been something in the dialogue, or I don't know, but it just seems like it doesn't relate to the movie.
Yeah, it's kind of a generic title.
Yeah,
and which well, I believe most movies have generic titles these days. So no,
with this and Extraordinary Measures.
Yeah, there's another one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've got a feeling the reviews in this movie are going to be pretty strong, and the title won't really matter because, unlike me, Mel Gibson is still, believe it or not, after all this time being away, after a decade of being away, is still a huge star. You know?
Yep.
He has the name recognition.
He does.
He's got an Oscar. He's made 1 million movies.
Mm-hmm.
He even did a voice in Chicken Run. I mean, this guy's been all over the place.
He produced that too, didn't he?
He produced it. He did one of the voices in it. He was. Let's give Mel Gibson a little praise here. He starred in and directed Braveheart. He was the voice of John Smith in Pocahontas. I don't know how many Lethal Weapon movies there were. Wasn't there 4? Wasn't there a 4th?
Oh, shit, yeah, 4.
I think there was a 4th. You know, playing that Martin Riggs character where every once in a while he would break into the Curly Howard thing. As a director, Man Without a Face, which he starred in, Braveheart, which he starred in, Passion of the Christ, thank goodness he didn't star in. He wrote Passion of the Christ, too.
We Were Soldiers. It was pretty good.
Yeah. But and as a producer, look what this guy's doing as a producer now. Apocalypto, he did Passion of the Christ. He produced Singing Detective. Here's 2 that people maybe either forgot or didn't even know about. Probably about 10 years ago, he executive produced a TV movie, The Life of the Three Stooges. Because he's a big Stooges fan. If you look at
I knew he was a Stooges fan.
Lethal Weapon movies,
I thought he was going to be doing something in a feature film.
No, that's the Farrelly brothers. Farrellys are doing that, but he produced the TV movie called The Three Stooges, and he produced one other film that very few people saw, unfortunately, the documentary Leonard Cohen, I'm Your Man. He was executive producer.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so
I saw it
this guy's
last
got
year.
his fingers all over the place. So, but you know what? I welcome him back.
Oh, and he also made this other movie.
Which one?
Passion.
Another Passion? Passion of the Christ. Passion of the Christ. Yes. Yes, he did direct that with just a little bit of controversy.
Yeah.
I confess, I never saw the film.
Really?
Yeah, I heard it was too
I'm
gory.
surprised.
I heard it was too gory. I like violence, but I don't like gore.
It was.
That's my taste.
Yeah, I saw it once.
Once was enough, huh?
Yeah, that was a lot of whipping. Wow. Wow.
Not my cup of tea.
So, would you pay $10 to see Edge of Darkness? Do you think it's?
I'm a critic. I don't have to do that.
I know. I'm thinking.
I am recommending it. Yes, I am giving it a solid
worth
review.
The $10.
People well, now you know what? Go to the matinee and pay $7.50. But yes, it's a
I would
solid.
say so too.
It's a very, very solid movie. It gets into politics. It gets into capitalism. It gets into some pretty strong emotional issues with the characters in it. And I'm not going to give anything away here, but I want people to know that with all the carnage that does go on this, again, not really bloody, but all of the fast action and violence, there's an almost magical, gentle, haunting ending to this film that really simply and effectively kind of eases you out of it, and you're not going to walk out in any kind of a violent mood. And I'm not going to give that away. It was a really magical moment for me, and I don't know how they pulled it off. There were a couple of different endings filmed. And this is the one they chose, and I just thought it was terrific.
I think that's a good way to end it, because this movie is going to be something that people don't want to know too much about.
Yeah.
But it's worth it.
Go see it.
It is worth it.
Ed recently had the opportunity to attend the press junket for Edge of Darkness, and he asked Mel a few questions. Here's a few sound clips from the event.
Yeah, I walked away from it after Signs because I just felt I was a bit stale and I needed to kind of maybe, it wasn't ringing my bells. So I focused on directing and writing and producing and all that kind of stuff. And then it was time to come back. Now, I got the acting bug back because I felt like all of a sudden, maybe after all these years, I might have something to offer again. And it coincided with a very good piece of material. Now, there was a compelling story with good elements attached. And I dug it. And it gave me a chance to work with Martin and Ray and Graham and Bill Monahan and good stuff. I mean, so, you know, if it wasn't this, it would have been something else. But this was the best thing that I saw. I ordered a chiropractor for the day after because I knew what it was going to feel. I knew I was going to wake up like roadkill, and I did. It's not, you don't bounce back as quick as you used to. And that guy's 25, right? And he's taking it easy on you, okay? You say, yeah. And it's not a pleasant experience, you know. Things You don't pop back the way you used to. But it's okay. I mean, so long as it still looks good.
That's all that
Got
matters.
away with it.
Do you just naturally stay in shape? I mean, do you just work out?
I don't work out much. I try and eat right and exercise a little. That sounds horrible. I quit smoking, so that's something in the right direction. So, you know, there's no more fun things left. I just don't do anything fun anymore. But that's dying, isn't it? I mean, you die in stages, right? Yeah. You let things go in pieces. You know, it's like it's more than halfway through, right? For all of us here, right? We're probably for most of you out there too. It's over halfway. More than halfway. Not you. No, you're not quite there yet, but Paul, I know you are. Let me tell you. There you go.
You know, the action, we tried to do the action, accumulatively, it's actually not that much. You know, there's not a great deal of action in it, but we designed the action so rather like a car crash. You know, most violent acts come out of nowhere. They simply, you know, they happen in the blink of an eye, and you never quite know exactly what happened, and that was the principle of this, really.
He likes to do that kind of thing before you can do this. It's like oh! It's like that.
Yeah.
It's much better.
Yeah, so that was a so that was a decision that we took. Yeah.
Why are you drawn to characters who've lost family and are fighting for justice?
Well, there's a lot of anger around. You know, it's that's not a good answer either. I think that's a very old theme in a lot of stories. I mean, look at Beowulf.
Yeah, I think also, you know, you look at the script first if you love the script, and it just happens to be about that subject. Yeah. The subject is not the thing you look at first, is it? It's the script, you know?
It really is. And if you go back, I mean, Martin and I talked about this, reminded us of a Jacobean tragedy from the 17th century in almost every way, you know. By one of those guys like the Duchess of... Well, who wrote that? Turner?
Duchess of Malfi.
Was that Turner? No, somebody. No, he wrote the Revenger's Tragedy.
Revenger's Tragedy, yeah.
I can't remember. They were all written by English guys about the Italians. It was really weird in the 17th century. Man, those Italians are really revengeful. But it was all the Brits doing it, you know. It's like, look at how revengeful. All talking about the other guy. So that's what it reminded me of, where everybody gets it, even the dog. Even the dog gets it, you know. So, I don't know. It's an old theme, and it's part of most hero myths. Something sets the spheres awry, and somebody has to right it. You know, it's a big theme.
Exactly.
Well, all experiences are. What does not kill you makes you stronger and tougher, I think. And you know, life's experiences, whether they be, you know, pleasant, unpleasant, torturous, or you know, or excruciatingly wonderful and blissful, you know, season you somehow, and you learn from them. And hopefully we'll learn. And isn't that what it's about? I mean, that's like, all I'm trying to do is put some information on a chip that I can leave to my progeny. And maybe they can do a better job than I can in this crazy spinning piece of dirt in the future. But how did I quit smoking? It was torture. I'm on day 9 now, so it's almost over. But the first 3 days, I was like an axe murderer. Day 4, I was, you know, I'd come at you with a bat. Day 5, I was dangerous with a lawnmower, you know. But now I'm kind of okay. But it is a hellish habit to break. Your neurons are involved. My mother smoked, I think, when I was in her womb. I'm not sure. I think so. When I first had one, when I was 9 years old, I thought, oh, my God, and now yes, I missed this. I knew I missed it. It was... And 45 years later, after every single artistic decision, every decision I've ever made was done with a cigarette. And to not have that, that's pretty hectic. It's like worse than... That's crawling the walls. I did for a while. Anyway.
The parts you really want to play are the emotional parts, and I do anyway, personally. And to sit across the table or sit in a garden watching someone play the emotional part, you know, when I read the script, and I didn't have a lot of time to get my act together, and with the help of Martin and Mel as well, decide which way you're going to take it, you know. And to play a man really at the beginning of me in the film, a man with no emotion, who seemed deaf and created deaf, and you know, I kind of met people like that years ago, you know, who've been through, whether it's the Second World War, whether it's people who are members of the SAS, you know, they have these eyes that kind of burn into you and look at the wall behind you, you know, and you can't tell them lies. And it's because of the amount of emotion that Mel has it to go through in this film, you know, it's kind of making the decision. It's all about decisions anyway, but as an actor, but to make a decision of to play someone who had no emotion on the surface, you know. And that's fun because you usually play the guy with it, plenty of it, you know. I've done loads of films like that, and so it's going to work's fun anyway, you know. And especially when you're sitting opposite someone like Mel or John Hurt or, you know, whoever it is, you know. It's always a blessing because you're working with people who are talented and who know their job and know their business, you know.
Oddly enough, it was we had a slightly different ending to the film, and it just wasn't comfortable. It didn't work, and in fact, Mel said to me, you know, this is not working. It doesn't feel right, and so forth. And we discussed it, and he said to me, well, why don't we put it in the hospital, in the hospital corridor? And that's precisely what we did, and so that's where that came from.
That was great.
And there was also another scene, which is, I think, one of the best scenes in the movie, which is the flashback scene to the little girl in the shaving scene. Well, I have to say that was entirely Mel's idea. It wasn't mine, and it was that was a scene that Mel improvised with the little girl, and we shot it in, 2 or 3 hours. I think we shot the scene, and it's probably my favorite scene in the movie, or certainly one of my favorite scenes in the movie.
Hey, I'm working with Graham here on the Viking movie. Yeah, and you want to hear the very first idea I ever had about making a film and about my first thought about ever being a filmmaker was when I was 16 years old, and I wanted to make a Viking movie, and I wanted to make it in Old Norse, which I was studying at the time. Okay? And it was like, it's odd because at that age you're like, well, that's a stupidly ridiculous idea. How will I ever be a filmmaker? And that's a dumb idea. It's just some kind of romantic pipe dream. But that was the first big, epic, wacky idea I ever had, was to show Viking real.
I thought you said a fucking movie.
No. It's actually not very different. You get to see another country get fucked over by the Vikings. Like these guys call it that.
The fucking. Yeah.
I think it's going to be in English, the English that would have been spoken back then, and Old Norse. Now, whatever the 9th century had to offer. I'm going to give you a reel, man.
Is that really important to you? Because we've seen that kind of trend on the passion and
Yeah.
respecting.
I want a Viking to scare you. I don't want a Viking to say, I'm going to die with a sword in my hand. I don't want to hear that. You know, it just takes all of it, pulls the rug out from under. I want to see somebody who I've never seen before speaking low guttural German who scares the living shit out of me, coming up to my house. Okay, what is that like? What would that have been like? I do like history.
You like history?
Oh, I love it. Yeah, and I like trying to imagine what it was like, especially if we don't have a clear picture on what it was. Try to imagine what it was like. Maybe romanticize it, make it compelling for film, maybe even push it a little over the top. You know, it's just a question of choices.
First of all, I don't think anyone plays the emotional side better than Mel, and I always remember that scene in Lethal Weapon. He's got the gun in the mouth, and I just thought he's perfect to carry that part, and then to go on that journey. With that kind of script, it was an honor for us to get Mel. You know, as far as I was concerned, you know, he hasn't worked. I didn't know Mel before this movie, and we knew he loved the miniseries, and we met with him, and it was kind of like a dream, like to get Mel Gibson back in front of the camera for us. And I remember when we went to see him.
Yeah.
And it was I think he just really dug the material, what Andrew Bovell did, and I remember we met about that, and he really liked it, but we needed to, like Martin said, push it to the finish line. And I called Bill Monahan and sent him the miniseries, and he said, I'll have a script for you in about 6 weeks. And he did, and it's just amazing. And he writes, I don't think anyone writes dialogue like Bill in this town for this kind of movie. And lucky enough, Mel read it and said, let's go. So you kind of like, wow, it's just amazing. And to see him on set and to see the guy, he comes out of his trailer and he's Craven. He's naturally gifted on the movie. It was just amazing.
And on to Mystery Team. And guess what? The original review that we did of Mystery Team, due to an audio glitch, was lost. So we are now back a couple days later, and John is here.
Hi.
John with Boston Event Guide is here. And I spoke with Ed about this last night. I had to inform Ed that the last 15 or so minutes of the show that we recorded had been lost, and he was totally cool with it. He was totally cool with it. We were just like, as long as we got Edge of Darkness in the can, that was all, that mattered.
And you both liked Edge of Darkness.
Yeah, we digged it. So
that's probably why I wasn't here.
Don't see Tooth Fairy. That was just abysmal. Don't see Tooth Fairy. Mystery Team, which opens at the Brattle today and plays for the next week, directed by Dan Eckman, is actually a terrific film. It was a terrific film. And the thing I want to say right off the bat is that this team that made this movie is, I think, all 25 or younger, 25 years old or younger. And this is a terrific first effort, I thought. These are the... they're kind of popular online. They're the Derek comedy team.
Don't know them
They've
online.
done some popular YouTube comedy pieces, and this is they've made a fine film here. What do you think?
I liked it. I don't know if I'd call it terrific, but I had fun. One of the great things about it is that they have this idea, and there's the basic plot is that they're when these guys were 7 years old, they were a mystery team, kind of like Scooby-Doo and the mystery team, and but without the dog. Just 3 kids who solved a local crime, made it in the newspapers, and now
I think it all went to their head.
Yeah, it went, and hurt them mentally, because 10 years later, they're seniors in high school who still act like 70-year-old detectives. They're solving crimes. They have a little booth set up, and it's golly gee whiz. They don't swear. They're all virgins.
Yeah, they're all solving missing cats and missing pies and where'd the goldfish go? Little mysteries around the neighborhood for the cost of a dime.
Right. And the thing I liked about the movie is that they take this idea and they just run with it. And sometimes they run right into a brick wall because they resort to it seems like an idea runs its course and they're like, oh, let's do a poop joke. But sometimes there's great fun. They do some really crazy stuff, but I love the idea that they just hold on to this idea to the very end. Even when they, there's a big moment, and this isn't a spoiler, but they all come to think about where they are in life and where they're going to go and all this in very silly ways. But even then, they keep that we're a mystery team together, and the way it ends was perfect for that.
Yeah. These 3 guys, very funny. Donald Glover, who's on the NBC TV show Community, very funny. He plays Jason, who is the master of disguise.
Yeah.
The idea is that he puts on these just completely idiotic disguises. He seems to think that he's hidden, but when he's just, everybody can obviously see that it's
Well, yeah, but it's clever because the way the director set it up, like at one point he disguises himself as a Mexican plumber with a giant sombrero and I swear he wears the same cheesy mustache with every disguise. And he walks up he's trying to get into this corporate office, and he walks up to the guy and he goes, "I am Juan the plumber, here to fix your pipes." And believe me, that accent is as good as his or as bad. And the guard goes, "All right, go on in." And then we see that it's a costume party's going on, so they just think he's, dressed up. So there's clever ways to keep the joke going, and not just, they don't have to say he doesn't get caught or people don't really think he's,
Yeah, or they're
lucky
that they're able to keep on going with this strong belief they have, this strong innocence they have, seems to be protected by these just lucky circumstances, you know. I mean, I guess the three of these guys can kind of see that things are falling apart all around them, and it's like they're living in their own, you know, anachronistic bubble.
Right. And as the adult world, I mean, people are getting shot, people are getting killed. There's things way beyond finding a cat in a tree. And their whole response is, we're in over our heads, but we're still going to go for it.
And the naiveness in these intense scenes.
Yeah.
Like the cocaine purchasing scene.
Right.
Like, you know, maybe we want to go for a 6-ball, but you know what? It's Friday night. Let's go for an 8-ball.
Yeah.
8 balls, please. Oh, boy, we've got a long night of cocaine ahead of us.
Yeah, it's just, I think, and it was interesting because they each have such strong personalities with the Master of Disguise, and then there is the boy genius.
Duncan, the boy genius.
Duncan, the boy genius.
And the way he says that, by putting his hand on his, and I'm Duncan, the boy genius.
Yeah, even though most of what he knows is from a trivia book he read in 2nd grade. So he can tell you, you know, penguins come from the South Pole, not the North Pole. And he just throws these into conversation.
Fist, heart, same size.
Yeah. All right, I think you've seen this more than once. I'm just guessing.
I did. I saw it, yes, twice.
Yeah, and I think you're going to see it more, I can tell.
Well, since I've seen it, I've been quoting you know,
Duncan, the boy
and
genius.
I'm Duncan, boy genius.
And who's the strong man of the group?
Charlie.
Charlie.
Who played Dominic Dierks?
Yeah,
DC Pearson plays Duncan. Dominic Dierks is Charlie.
And he was, you know, Charlie. He's supposed to be the muscle of the group, and he's really not. He's kind of a gangly geek. They show him working out, and he can't pick up the weights. And the one point in the movie, he gets into a fight with the bad guy. He's like, "I can't believe I'm punching you." Yeah, so I think it was such good-natured fun, and for what I imagine is a pretty low-budget movie, I was very impressed by the look of it.
Oh, we should say actually the point where the movie takes a turn for reality is about 10 minutes in. There's a neighborhood girl from across the street goes up to their stand out in front of the house that looks something like Lucy from Peanuts would have for Charlie Brown. You know,
the psychiatrist's office.
Well, there's his mysteries solved. You know, by P-U-R-R, professionals, 10 cents. So she comes up to the whatever they call the stand and says, "Would you help me find who killed my parents?" And they have a sort of the three of them with their notepad, their questionnaire, and whatever, you know, just sort of freeze for a moment, and then turn like, we got to talk about this, you know, because just, you know, a couple minutes prior they were just trying to find out who you know, had stuck their finger in Mrs. Yada Yada's pie.
Right.
Her blueberry pie or whichever.
Which in itself is a pretty funny caper when you find out why the kid was sticking his finger in the pie.
Oh, sure. Yeah, there's this small kid, and there's this young 10-year-old kid in town who is the exact opposite of these three kids as they were 10 years old.
Right. He's world weary, this kid. You know, he's foul-mouthed, he's done it all, seen it all, and yeah, he's a good counterpoint for the comedy. And, you know, some of the times the jokes were a little...
it didn't work.
Yeah.
It really didn't work.
Yeah.
And I still think, you know, that's okay.
Right.
You know, they tried. They most of this movie works, and it's very funny. And then there's these really obvious parts that just fall flat dead.
Yeah.
You know.
But they're also, it's funny. It's like, I don't know, listening to, when growing up, I used to listen to the Firesign Theatre. And the comedy would just go off in such a strange direction. You know, it was like jazz music. It just went off. They were riffing on stuff. And there were moments in this, they would just take off, and I'd be like, where the hell's this going? But taking the trip anyway. You know, just to see, again, I think it's all because they came up with this simple idea and just, they didn't drive it into the ground, but they took it as far as any movie can. And, you know, the fact that it ends leaving you believing there'll be a sequel.
You know, and I do kind of agree with them that in the interviews that I had read, I agree that when they came up with the idea, I was thinking that, geez, you know, I'm surprised that nobody else had come up with this before. I mean, maybe there's been I don't know, something like Erie, Indiana, or something like that.
Or every Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, but not taking this to the adult level humor that it is. I mean, this is definitely an R-rated movie. It's not It's not for kids. The other thing I want to say is that the movie is about the mystery team, and it's about how these guys relate to each other. And then there's those moments of whether they're going to leave this behind because, you know, they're going to go to college, or are they going to stick it through and stay with the mystery team and open up a business in town or something. But the movie is actually really about Jason, Donald Glover's character, and he's sort of the focal point because it's his character coming full circle that everybody, he's holding the torch for the survival of the mystery team, for their respect. And that's what they want. They want to be what they were when they were 7 years old. They want that one big case that's going to give them the respect that they think, they deserve. And they're constantly, through every hour of the day, being reminded of what dorks they are, but they still seem to, they just don't understand that they really are being disrespected. It's slowly seeping in, like the wedgies or the being dissed by the football team, or having his backpack stolen and dirt put into it. And
well, I think also it's just that when Donald, the boy genius, finally Duncan, the boy genius, when he finally explodes, which is a pretty funny scene. Yeah. But even then,
he seems to be the one that has the 1 foot towards reality.
He is a genius
out of the three. Yeah,
sort of. And the other, but when he blows up, and it's just like he finally swears. But even then, he's like, I've been practicing in the backyard.
Yeah,
it's really
he's
fun.
Been saying that.
Yeah, like he goes in the backyard to say the F word, in practice because he hears other people say it. Now, and there's part of
you
part
should
of
try
it.
it sometime. It feels really good.
Yeah, and the thing is, all right. First of all, you've seen this way too much. Even at twice, you're quoting it.
I've
You're gonna
seen
start,
it.
If
Maybe,
you come in with a bowl cut next show, like Duncan the Boy Genius, that's it. It's over. But one of the things, you see a lot of movies, a lot of teen movies, where it's always about dreams being broken. Whether it's I want to be a baseball player and someone's going to tell you you'll never be a ball player, or you want to be a fairy princess and no, you'll never be a fairy princess. Here's guys that want to be detectives. And I think part of the subliminal joy of it is that, gosh darn it, they're going to do it.
Yeah.
Even when, reality comes by, they stick together because they're friends. So there's no big earth-shattering moment where it destroys their dreams. Well, and I appreciated that.
They, and they also said that they were burdened by the problem of really knowing what they wanted to do with their lives too early. They people go to high school, college, they still don't know what major they want to be or what they're going to do. But these guys knew what they wanted to do, right from the get-go. And one of the main guys, I forget who's admitted that this is our burden. We know what we want to do. And also I wanted to say what makes Jason more of the character that is the center here, that everybody's kind of like, if things break down with him, then the mystery team is gone. One of the girl who actually puts the dime on the desk
to find her desk.
To find her parents. She's both of her parents have been killed. She's the younger sister of Kelly. And Kelly is played by Audrey Plaza from Parks and Recreation. And Jason, over the course of the film, develops a crush on Carrie. So there's actually this sort of relationship, brilliant, and that's a first for any of the guys in Mystery Team, because all of the innuendo that's going on around them is just flying over their heads.
Right. Well, there's that really funny scene where they go into a gentleman's club. And, so what do? They dress as gentlemen. They put on fake top hats and monocles and, talk in posh accents to walk in. And there's naked women, and strippers on poles and stuff. And they have no inkling that anything is going on except for they get enormous erections.
And we have British accents.
Right. But it's a great sight gag. It's very funny. But then when the Master of Disguise, what's his name again?
Jason.
When Jason... they're getting chased around by the bouncer, and he falls on the floor where the stripper's been, and he's like, "This smells like cold cuts." It's just one of those wacky lines. It's like, I'm laughing.
And the scene where they basically what they're looking for is a ring that is sort of key to this. It's a small town mystery about I guess it's a company.
It was the dead mom's ring.
Yeah.
So, not to give it away.
Like anything else, there's going to be a larger thing that connects to what's going on with a certain company in town. So let's stop right there. I don't want to
No, you don't
go
want to
too
tell them
far.
how the ring is found.
Oh, go ahead.
Well,
What?
before
Go ahead.
we move on to the next one, I do want to say that as much fun as we had with this, the director is
Dan Ekman.
This is his first time, right?
Yeah.
Does a good job. I mean, it's a low-budget film, but it looks good. He handles sight gags well. The pacing's well done.
I think he also did the score.
The
Which I
music,
thought was
you mean?
pretty- yeah, they have this theme, this mystery team theme, which is actually pretty good.
Sing a little for us. Come on.
Well, what I
know you
recall,
know it.
what really impressed me off from the start with this film is the film begins with a piece where the mystery team is trying to find this old man, or they think that this old man is dead and he's in his house. And it's basically one of these out of place scenes that you're going to see. I forget the term, but anyway, it's like a short 5-minute scene at the beginning, but it builds into something else like 15 minutes later in the film. It's
Right,
one of those
right.
things. The way he creates the interest in these characters was really good. And he establishes, I think, the childishness of these guys through the music. And there's a scene where the camera pans, across the front yard where you see the mystery team's stand with all the little kids' things on it. And the camera goes right up their Campbell soup can walkie-talkie system from the stand up through the window. And then you pan in, you go in right through the window and you see all the other stuff. I thought it was a terrifically done shot that really captures the character of these kids, and with that theme, that I was like, okay, that shot's impressive.
Yeah.
Did a good job.
So, a lot of it, even the action scenes are well done.
Yes.
And
the van with no door.
Right.
And the
woman who
the
fought,
drug dealer.
yeah,
Oh my God.
what
That was
happens to
good.
the young lady. All of it is signs of, I think, a good first effort, and hopefully see more from these people.
Yeah, I hope so. And they financed it themselves, I think. And so they've got a good thing going, and it was an impressive first film. So I encourage people to see it at the Brattle.
Yeah,
It's
and
really worth it.
that's just it. If you hear this in time, go up to the Brattle in Harvard Square and see it on the big screen. It's worth it.
Definitely.
And I'd love to see it with an audience.
Oh, absolutely. One of the things that they do in this movie, I want to say, because this leads into the next movie we're going to talk about, is there's a guy at the local grocery store who's sort of their informant. They'll go to this guy to get maybe some clues, or when they solve a mystery, they'll go back to the grocery store and they'll get some free ice cream. It's this funny guy, Kevin Moynihan, is the sort of the psycho grocery clerk guy. Well, he also is in.
Yeah, he's
When
in our
Rome
next movie.
as Josh Duhamel's nutty friend. So he's got the nutty friend thing going.
Yeah.
And he's good.
When it comes to love, I've never had too much luck. Io to Beth. But this is what the Romans call the Fontana de Amore. If you throw in a coin, you find love. So maybe if I take a few, like you, and you, some of the magic will rub off on me.
What were you doing in the Fontana de Amore? Picking up coins. Seth, we got a problem. If you take someone's coin from the fountain, they will fall in love with you.
That is ridiculous.
Have any men come on to you since the wedding?
When in Rome. Before I tell you what I think, it's been a long time, I should say, when I've seen critics this angry coming out of a movie.
Really?
Guys, they were just guys seething at how much they hated this movie. And I was like, come on, it wasn't that bad. It's the end of January. It's winter. We've seen a lot worse crap over the last few weeks.
There are some good laughs in this movie.
Yeah.
But it in no way has its feet grounded in reality, so I don't know what...
No romantic comedy does.
But if you're looking at this romantic comedy through the lens of, what are one's expectations for a romantic comedy? Are they supposed to be grounded in reality? This takes some great leaps of fancy. And,
I didn't have a problem with that. We should tell people what it's about in case you haven't seen it. Kristen Bell plays a young woman. She's an art curator. She's a curator at the Guggenheim.
Yep.
And she loves her job, and that makes her too busy to find love in her personal life. But her younger sister...
A theme we've seen so many times. I kept thinking about Robin Williams' character in Hook, and this being like a female version, where she's sort of always attached to her cell phone and texting and stuff like that. Can't break away from work to do
I've never been able to equate
Kristen
Bell with Robin Williams. So.
That's the association I made.
Wow, that's sad. But anyway, she can't find love, but her little sister, who's an airline stewardess, finds love with an Italian fellow she meets in first class, and 2 weeks later, everyone's flying to Rome for the wedding.
Mm-hmm.
At the wedding, Kristen Bell gets drunk. She goes outside. There's this fountain with a statue of Venus. People throw coins in,
Fontaine d'Amore.
To make their wishes, usually romantic ones. She's drunk. She's not happy with romance. She gets in the fountain, and in kind of throw it back in the face of Venus, she steals 5 coins from the fountain.
And this is interesting because Venus is supposed to be naked, but this Disney version of Venus is appropriately clothed or covered in the right places. So I got to thinking this couldn't have been a real fountain. So I went and looked in the production notes, and they did actually create this fountain for the movie, the clothed version of Venus, which they actually wanted to build somewhere near the Vatican, the plaza around there, but it wasn't a good idea to build a pagan god in the
near the Vatican.
Near the Vatican, yeah.
See, what's the thing for the fact that this
so,
was
Disney built it elsewhere, I guess, if I can remember correctly.
The whole thing is, even though it's supposed to take place in Rome, it could have been shot in a back lot for all the realism you get for their being in Italy. But anyway, she steals the coins, and there's a legend that has if you steal the coin, if you take a coin from the fountain, whoever threw it in will fall madly in love with you. And so the 5 guys the 5 coins she takes, those 5 guys chase her to New York, including the one guy she actually likes, which is Josh Duhamel.
Josh Duhamel.
Josh
who
Duhamel.
was a journalist from Syracuse.
Oh no! I'm so sorry. Oh gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know that was you. I'm really sorry.
Oh, it hurts so bad, but tastes so good. What is that, mint?
It's breath spray. You startled me, and I didn't have anything else. I am so sorry. Can I see it?
No, you're just gonna make it. You're just gonna make it worse. It's okay.
Don't be such a baby. I really feel awful. I did not know that it would hurt that bad.
It doesn't hurt that bad. I was just playing.
You think you're real charming, don't you?
A little bit.
Yeah, well, you are.
Mm-hmm. The thing, though, is that so she's got these 5 guys pursuing her. Josh Duhamel?
Yeah. I would
he's the cute one that she actually likes, but she can't believe the love is real because he's one of the coins.
Right.
And then the others are Danny DeVito as a sausage maker, John Heder as a magician, Will Arnett as an Italian painter,
Antonio,
and Dax Shepard as a male model.
The very self-obsessed, egotistical male model.
And this place is the greatest. You can get your work done, no one bothers you. Food's great, low carb, high protein. It's really the only way to go when your work requires you to be shredded and dieseled out. Oh yeah, here, don't crane your neck. Go ahead, feast your eyes. Yes, I've seen that look before. You're intimidated because I'm a model. But I don't want you to be scared, okay? I'm a normal guy. I'm Gale, like a gale force wind. I took on that name because it's the most powerful force in the natural world for shaping and eroding the earth. It's, you can feel it.
Actually, I think that's water.
This is crazy. I don't know whether to look at my own reflection or at you. That's how beautiful you are.
And so they're all wacky characters chasing after her, and to me they were the most annoying part of this movie.
I digged them. That was the part of this movie that I loved.
Why?
They were funny, man. I just apart from anything else, it's Will Arnett is funny.
No,
and it was
not.
He was totally, completely unconvincing. You know that this is Will Arnett playing, a heightened stereotypical version of an Italian.
Italiano,
but it was funny.
No,
okay.
I totally disagree.
And
I thought
John Heters. Oh, go ahead.
No, I just thought the point that they were supposed to annoy Beth, the Kristen Bell character, the fact that they were annoying
blindly
came across
following
loud and clear to me.
They're of course they're under this spell from the Fountain of Love because she has their coin. So they're doing what someone who's blindly in love does, except it's heightened. you know, like Will Arnett, the artist, paints a naked mural of her in downtown Manhattan. You know, he's you know,
And you
Danny
found
DeVito.
that believable?
No, completely unbelievable, but amusing. And then Danny DeVito showering her with sausage. And then,
Not literally, but
you know, John Heder trying to do all these impressive magic tricks.
Yeah.
It was
You know,
completely,
each one.
it was uncomfortably funny to me, and that is the part of this movie that I'm saying is good, but I'm disappointed with the rest of it.
See, we're complete opposites because I thought each one of these guys had a comic trait. You know, Dax Shepard's posing all the time.
Well, they are supposedly static characters. They're just there to do their thing.
Did you like Kristen Bell?
She was all right. She was all right. You know, I feel like I don't want to say, oh, you know, she wasn't bad. I'm not, you know, I didn't have a problem with her. She fulfilled what she was supposed to do for this movie. I mean, it was like.
And what was that? What do you think she was supposed to do?
She was supposed to be this person who was determined, didn't believe in love, effervescent when she wanted to be, had a certain shallowness, but, you know, was also holding out for the idea that, you know, maybe there is something, you know, about this whole love thing, which is so typical romantic comedy stuff.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, this is nothing that goes.
Oh, they are not.
The movie doesn't do anything for the genre of romantic comedy. It just plays right into it.
None of them do. Well, few of them do.
Bland.
See, I think she has decent comic skills.
Yes.
I'm not sure this movie gives her that much to do. I think there's some physical comedy that I think she did pretty well with. She can deliver a line. I think she had good chemistry with Josh.
Mm-hmm.
She's definitely easy on the eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Although I talked to some ladies afterwards, and they were like, you know, that she wears this dress at the wedding with a plunging neckline, shall we say. Mm-hmm. And the ladies were like, that dress is all wrong for her.
Really?
And I was like, really? I had
I had
problem
no
with
idea.
it. Yeah. Looked fine to me.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, the thing I liked is that I think she's extremely likable.
She is.
And I think she has good comic skills. Again, I think one of the problems that I had with this movie comes from the direction.
Mark Steven Johnson.
Right. Who, he's got a track record. There's Mark Steven Johnson's the director. He's
but
directed,
it's not in romantic comedy.
Right. He's done Ghost Rider, Daredevil, Simon Birch. Mm-hmm. He wrote Elektra. He wrote Jack Frost about a killer snowman.
Mm-hmm.
How does this guy get a romantic comedy? And is
you know,
that
I
one of
was
the
asking
problems
myself
here?
the same thing, and I think in the Hollywood sense, it may not be that that he's a terrific romantic comedy director.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of like you need somebody that's going to be able to manage a movie and bring it in on time and film it the way the producers want. And
right.
You know, there's guys that just you know, do that. What's his name? You know, Mr. Threequel guy, the guy who does you know, Brett Ratner.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe Mark Steven Johnson has a little bit of the Brett Ratner thing going on.
Right.
Where, you know, he's, from a business standpoint, this guy knows how to bring a production around and
Right.
make the movie. And he made it's actually a quality film.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not that good in
Right.
the sense that it appealed to me. But the production design is actually terrific. I mean, the movie looks great. It's a quality film in terms of production value, but it's just didn't hit on, you know, where it was supposed to go. What I thought, I just wasn't entertained. You know, I just,
Right.
You know, I found some parts terrifically funny, and this was perhaps another movie where it's about the process of making a film. And you know, we've been talking about kids' films like the Spy Next Door, and then Ed and I had discussed Tooth Fairy.
Two of your favorites so far this year.
Oh yeah. And this is the process of making a romantic comedy,
Mm-hmm.
putting the ingredients in the bowl and stirring it up and you know, baking it the right way, and that's what these guys know he can do.
Yeah,
you know?
well, I can see that. I can definitely see that. And there were, I think, yeah, you do get the sense he's a hired gun.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's brought into, you know, almost like, here's the deal, just don't mess it up.
Mm-hmm.
Because any romantic comedy, you know, you can tell from the posters, Kristen Bell and Josh are going to end up together at the end.
Mm-hmm.
That's a given. So what happens along the way is the only play we've got here. You know,
I mean, it's light and it's fun, and there's an audience for this that will appreciate it. So it's gonna succeed in that. It's gonna hit with some people because it was getting quite a good reaction from the crowd that we saw it with. But you know, like you said, there were a number of us who just were like, "Oh my God, whatever." Seen this so many times. You're really not getting anything so much new in the romantic comedy genre here.
I can't remember the last time I felt something new in the romantic comedy genre.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
You know, you have to go back, I think, to...
There is a scene that we were just talking about in the Nightlight restaurant with Kirsten Shaw that's pretty funny, and that's maybe 5 minutes, and she's very funny. People would, know her from Flight of the Conchords. She plays a waitress.
In a restaurant where it's pitch black, you eat in pitch black because it heightens your other senses, and then we see it through night vision goggles of what's going wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was funny. There's a couple of sight gags that are funny. There's a thing with a tiny car.
We're not staying here. You're not staying here. I need to be at the Guggenheim.
We take my car. I just bring her from Italia.
You have a car?
It's multi grande. But I'll be fine.
You guys comfortable up there?
No, where's the keys? I just have the keys at your apartment.
I have the key. Get the keys.
Ay, ay, ay.
What annoying. Who makes this car? Fisher Price?
In Italia, this is a mid-sized car.
In America, it's a clown car.
That,
oh, yeah.
Through the
and I
Guggenheim,
kept thinking...
That's pretty funny.
You've got 5 people in a car smashed into, this tiny car. And they drive it into the Guggenheim, right through the glass doors, right into the elevator. So, yeah, it fits in the elevator. And then, it doesn't tax the weight capacity of the elevator, too. No,
of course not.
Just
that would ruin the joke, Steve.
Just drive it on in, back it all up, right to the Guggenheim.
I mean, this movie isn't above the comic equivalent of stepping on a rake and getting hit in the nuts. I mean, Josh walks into a lot of things.
Mm.
They're both clumsy people.
Mm-hmm.
And that can. I think it worked most of the time here. It's like, but it's the kind of thing Charlie Chaplin said. A guy falling on a banana peel isn't funny. If he steps over the banana peel and falls down a manhole, that's funny.
Mm-hmm. And
that's just it. If I know they play a lot of misdirection where oh wait, he misses this banging his head here and he whacks it over here, and it's just little physical comedy things.
Yeah, there is. I was surprised by the slapstick in this film.
Mm-hmm.
And the big laughs coming from the spills, the falls, the tripping over the horse-drawn carriage on a couple of occasions. Also, this movie is so formulaic in its supporting characters, because
including the 4 guys.
Beth has her assistant, who is well-meaning but screws things
kind
up.
Of dumb,
right. And I forget the character's name, but Josh Duhamel's buddy is what's his name? Moynihan.
The guy from Mystery Team.
Yeah, Bobby Moynihan, who plays his buddy journalist, photographer, who has all the real funny asides. And they completely reminded me of Elizabeth Perkins and Jim Belushi in About Last Night. That's just 25 years, earlier. Same thing.
Right.
Same thing still going on. You have your, your quirky supporting characters that are good for a few laughs, and they tend to embody the, they so much want their, their alpha friend to succeed at whatever they're doing.
And they're always a little uglier, a little dumber.
Yeah.
But all right, so we kind of agree on the comedy here. Some of it worked, some of it didn't. Some of it worked more for you than it did for me. Some of it worked more for me than it did for you.
I thought John Heder was funny in his.
What about dragging out that guy
what's his name? The male model guy.
Dax Shepard.
Yeah, Dax Shepard. I thought he was his ego is what what made him funny.
Mm-hmm.
He's it's just a small part, but it was funny, and I can't recommend the movie. I mean, I can't say I don't think it's worth $10, but what I'm saying here is that these 4 guys, as in their portion of the movie together, what they're doing, to me that was funny.
But one of the things I want to say is, so we have varying opinions on the comedy. Some of it worked, some of it didn't.
Mhm.
Did the romantic part of it work for you?
No.
Not at all.
No, I didn't care whatsoever. I whether or not, and it was predictable.
Mhm.
You knew that this guy was real. You knew that he was real all along. His love was not based on some coin that was thrown into a fountain.
Right.
A wish.
Right, and they really paint themselves in a corner with that one.
Through this movie, she's thinking that he's controlled. He's under a spell.
Mhm.
I'm not going to give it away. There is something that goes on at the end, towards the end, but it's not a surprise. It's it is, and if I guess what you're saying, the chemistry between
Josh and Kristen,
between those two, I was not wrapped up in it. There wasn't really much.
I don't know if I'd say I was wrapped up in it, but there's towards the end where she has to face that maybe the love she feels for this guy is being reciprocated for the wrong reasons, and they have little emotional speed bumps towards the end, and I don't know why, but it worked for me.
So you
I didn't cry.
like this
I
movie?
I want that on the record. I
but
did
you
not
like
cry.
the ending.
Yeah.
Okay.
I knew it was coming. You know they're going to get together. They dragged it out a little too long. I think the way she finds out that he's not under a spell isn't very satisfying. But there's just moments, and I think it's because of her, where I'm believing it probably more than anyone else in the theater that night. I don't know why. I just thought she did a great job. When it worked, the romantic part of it worked for me.
Okay.
So
I thought I was being manipulated by the music. When the music was kicking in to try and tell me this is how I should feel, I was like, all right,
yeah.
is,
You see, that's not. I hate that too. When you're suddenly like, oh, it's a sad song. I must be sad. Or it's a song to. I always have the feeling that, for some reason, whether it's the screenwriter can't pull it off, the director can't pull it off, they ran out of money.
Your
they do a
favorite
montage.
Screenwriting duo, John.
Yeah.
The guys who brought you Old Dogs.
Yeah. Yes. We should start up some kind of campaign to stop these guys.
Screenwriting, I guess that's what it takes to write comedy is you got to have a couple of guys who bounce things off each other and, come up with all the laughs and stuff like that. And I guess that's.
But when I watched
comedy-wise, as a romantic comedy goes, the comedy on this one is
it's funnier than it is romantic. But one of the things when you mentioned Moynihan, is it the sidekick?
Yeah,
I had the strong suspicion watching this movie that he ad-libbed his lines. Because,
I could see that. Yeah,
it's like he shows up at the apartment with a six-pack, and he says 6 beers in, no beers out. Little things like that. No one's going to, I don't think they're going to write lines like that. They all felt like, this guy's, because they're funny, but they're also such a different tone than anything else that's being written.
Unless you interview him and he tells you directly that he came up with that stuff, the world will never know.
Yeah, that's true. Man, the world's not going to go see this movie anyway. I would pay for it. I would pay for it. I would use this as a date movie, used in a nice way, because I think there's enough here to keep both people interested.
I guess I would recommend it as a
maybe go Dutch,
as a matinee. I was kind of like
first date movie,
even though we saw it at a press screening. I was still like, man, I'm gonna go see this. It's still like, whatever.
I can't wait till we talk about Dear John.
Look, one romantic comedy in one of these things is enough.
So that wraps it up for the show. In this show, we reviewed with Ed Symkus, Edge of Darkness, and thanks to Ed for coming on the show and doing that. And our apologies to Ed for the glitch. We look forward to having Ed on the show very soon, very soon. In fact, I talked with him last night at the Accompaniment screening. He's looking forward to coming back on and discussing some films. Ed's a film critic with Gatehouse Media and New England Cable News. And John.
I'm John Black from Boston Event Guide.
And I'm Steve Head with the Post Movie Podcast. And until next week, don't forget to check out the website at postmovie.wordpress.com. And definitely send us an email. Let us know what you think of the show. We'd really like to hear from you. We're at postmovieshow@gmail.com. Thanks a lot.
Bye.